The will that never sleeps. What if the thing driving your entire life is not you? You wake up. You check your phone. Notifications, cravings, a flash of dread. Coffee. Work. Dopamine. Repeat. It feels like you're making choices, like you're in control. But something deeper, something darker, is pulling the strings. Arthur Schopenhauer called it the will. Not free will. Not ambition. But an unconscious, blind, unstoppable force inside you. The will is the innermost essence of everything. It is the force behind all movement, all desire, and all suffering. You're not hungry because you choose to be. You're not lonely because you're weak. You are these things, because the will demands it. It wants. That's all it does. It wants air. It wants food. It wants success, love, validation, power. And when it gets what it wants more. You think you're climbing a mountain. But Schopenhauer says it's a treadmill. A beautiful, gilded, exhausting treadmill. Where fulfillment is always one step ahead. The will doesn't rest. When you achieve one dream, it manufactures another. You chase love. You find it. Then, you get bored. You chase status. You climb. Then, you feel hollow again. You don't need to be rich to feel it. You don't need to be broken, either. The will spares no one. It's in the child begging for candy. The billionaire waking up restless at 3 a.m. The influencer refreshing for likes, while pretending they don't care. This isn't a motivational message. This is the reality beneath the mask. All striving springs from deficiency, and is therefore suffering. Schopenhauer. You might say, but I'm different. I know what I want. I'm in control. Really? Who told you to want that car, that body, that job, that lifestyle? Where did the hunger come from? Where does it end? Schopenhauer didn't say this to depress you. He said it to wake you up. To show you that behind your constant reaching, there is a silence. A truth that nobody wants to admit. You are not the master. You are the servant. And the master is always hungry. But maybe, just maybe, you don't have to obey it forever. The illusion of fulfillment. Happiness isn't the prize, it's the bait. We are sold stories. That if we just try hard enough, believe big enough, suffer long enough, we will arrive. At peace. At contentment. At happiness. But what happens when you finally get what you wanted? You climb the mountain, sweaty and proud, only to see another peak. Just as tall. Just as distant. Schopenhauer saw it before anyone else. Satisfaction is simply the end of pain, not the beginning of joy. That dream job you fought for? You get it, and now you're anxious about keeping it. That perfect relationship? You have it, and now you're afraid they'll leave. The new car, the new house, the new life? It feels good. For a moment. Then the emptiness returns. Modern culture romanticizes achievement. The grind. The glow-up. The becoming. We chase new beginnings. Because we're terrified of stillness. Because stillness feels like death. And maybe, deep down, we know it brings us face to face with ourselves. And we've spent a lifetime running from that. You were never taught how to be. You were only taught how to become. Always in motion. Never at rest. It's why billionaires keep working. Why celebrities collapse under fame. Why even the happiest photos on Instagram feel hollow. You were promised peace after success. But you weren't told it was a moving target. Desire is infinite. Fulfillment is brief. And in between, is suffering. That's not pessimism. That's precision. And once you see it, once you feel it, something changes. Not because you give up, but because you wake up. You stop chasing happiness like a destination. You start seeing it for what it is. A fleeting spark, not a flame. A moment, not a home. And that is freedom. The moment you stop needing everything is the moment you start needing nothing. You still act. You still live. You still dream. But without the illusion. Without the leash. And for the first time, the noise in your chest goes quiet. The modern despair. The world got louder, but you got lonelier. Schopenhauer never saw a smartphone. He never had to scroll through Instagram. Never lived in a world where attention was currency. Where your soul was reduced to screen time. But he understood exactly what was coming. Because at the core of every app, every algorithm, every viral moment is the will. Refined. Digitized. Weaponized. Your wants are not yours anymore. They're harvested. Stimulated. Monetized. You don't chase your desires chase you. And the worst part? You think you're choosing it. You scroll for dopamine. You binge for escape. You post for meaning, hoping someone out there sees you. But deep down you know. You're still empty. Schopenhauer said that desire is suffering. And in the 21st century, we've built entire industries on that pain. The self-help books. The productivity cults. The side hustle grind. All telling you the same thing. You're not enough. But maybe. If you keep pushing, someday, you will be. This is the modern despair. Not poverty of money. But poverty of meaning. We don't suffer because we're weak. We suffer because the world tells us we should be more than human. Always on. Always better. Always next. And when you can't keep up, you call yourself lazy, broken, behind. You blame yourself for not thriving in a system designed to drain you. The will has evolved. It no longer speaks in hunger or lust. It whispers in notifications. It smiles in filters. It sells you peace, but only if you suffer first. But Schopenhauer didn't leave us in the dark. He saw a way out. A strange, uncomfortable, beautiful escape. Not through success. But through surrender. Love, loneliness, and the trap of desire. Love. That sacred word wrapped in poetry, novels, and 1,000 films. The cure to our loneliness, the meaning we're told to chase. But Schopenhauer saw something else. To him, love was not the fairy tale. It was nature's strategy. A survival trick. A beautiful, torturous illusion. He said it plainly, when you fall in love, it's not you choosing. It's the will, choosing for you. And it doesn't care about your happiness. It doesn't care if you're compatible, or fulfilled, or safe. It only wants one thing, to continue. To reproduce. To project itself through another generation. And you? You're just the vessel. A dreamer caught in a biological lie. This is why love often hurts. Why it feels like obsession. Like madness. Like hunger. And in the modern world, this lie has evolved. Now, love comes with filters and curated profiles. We swipe for connection, but find emptiness. We chase affection, but fall into performance. We mistake being seen for being loved. Dating apps promise endless possibilities, but deliver infinite discontent. Each match is a simulation. A brief hope. A reminder that we are lonely, and even in a crowd, still invisible. We idolize the honeymoon, but fear the ordinary. We crave the story, but abandon the silence. We believe love will complete us, but that belief is the seed of suffering. Because when we love to escape ourselves, we bring our emptiness into every embrace. Schopenhauer didn't deny love's intensity. In fact, he respected its power. But he warned us that the force behind it isn't as romantic as we think. It's deeper, more primal, and far less interested in your joy. And yet, in its quietest form, not the desire, not the passion, not the fire, but the stillness of knowing someone is simply there. There is something sacred. When all performance is stripped away. When no expectations remain. And two people simply exist, side by side. Perhaps that is the kind of love the will cannot touch. Not a contract. Not a thrill. Not a chase. But a rebellion. The tyranny of optimism. You must stay positive. You must smile through it. You must believe everything happens for a reason. This is what the world tells you. That to suffer quietly is noble. But to speak of despair is weakness. We've turned positivity into performance. Into a mask we wear even when our world is collapsing. But Schopenhauer saw straight through it. He refused to lie about the darkness. And maybe that's why the world ignored him. Because he refused to sell hope. To him, forced optimism was not a virtue. It was denial dressed in bright colors. A refusal to face the raw truth of existence. That life is suffering. That pain is not the exception, it is the rule. And that pretending otherwise only deepens the wound. We scroll past quotes about happiness. We recite mantras we barely believe. We numb ourselves with goals and distractions. All to keep the truth buried. But deep down, we know. We feel it when we're alone. When the noise fades. When the dopamine runs dry. That creeping sense that no amount of manifesting will fill the void. And still, we fear saying it out loud. Because what if acknowledging the darkness makes it stronger? Schopenhauer argued the opposite. That only by seeing the world clearly, by stripping away illusions, can we begin to live with any kind of honesty. He didn't offer solutions. He offered sincerity. And in a culture obsessed with good vibes only, that might be the most radical act of all. Because forced joy is a prison. And sometimes, what we call negativity is just the soul begging to be honest. So no, everything does not happen for a reason. Pain is not always a lesson. And life, for many, is not fair and never will be. But acknowledging that is not despair. It's freedom. Because when you finally stop pretending, you make space for something real. Not hope, not happiness, not positivity. But peace. Not the kind that comes from fixing everything. But the kind that comes from no longer needing to. In the quiet rebellion of telling the truth, you begin to breathe again. Solitude, boredom, and the void. There's a silence inside us we spend our whole lives running from. A terrifying, infinite quiet. And we'll do anything to avoid hearing it. We surround ourselves with noise. With screens, deadlines, opinions, podcasts, playlists. Scrolling through the endless stream. Not because it matters. But because stopping would mean facing it. Boredom. Solitude. The void. And yet, Schopenhauer believed this was where the truth lives. Not in movement. Not in noise. But in stillness. He called boredom the direct proof of the emptiness of existence. Because if life were truly fulfilling, why would we feel pain when nothing's happening? We fear boredom not because it's dull, but because it reveals too much. It tears away the distractions. It shows us the raw mechanics of desire. How quickly we panic when there's nothing left to chase. And solitude? That's even worse. Because in solitude, there's no one left to impress. No audience. No validation. Just you, naked, unmasked, unfiltered. So we call it loneliness. We label it dysfunction. We pathologize silence like it's a disease. But what if we're wrong? What if solitude isn't the absence of life, but the beginning of it? Schopenhauer, like many great minds before and after him, from Buddha to Pascal to Nietzsche, understood that what we call suffering is often just withdrawal. From addiction. Addiction to stimulation. To control. To becoming. He saw that the more you run from the void, the louder it gets. But if you sit with it, if you stop fighting, stop performing, stop needing every second to be productive, something strange happens. You begin to see. See that your restlessness was not a flaw, but a signal. That your boredom was not laziness, but grief. Grief for the life you've lived on autopilot. For the person you've pretended to be. For the self you lost trying to matter. The world tells you, don't be alone. Find your tribe. Stay connected. But connection without depth is just noise with extra calories. And sometimes, solitude is the only honest place left. Because only in silence can you hear what's beneath the surface. Only in boredom can you discover what you're really made of. Only in the void can something new be born. Not the next achievement, not the next version of you, but the self that was buried beneath 1,000 distractions. So no, the void isn't empty. It's just deeper than we're used to. And maybe, just maybe, that unbearable silence is the first honest conversation you've ever had. Escape from desire. Desire is the engine. It wakes you up in the morning. It drags you through traffic. It whispers to you while you scroll through faces, likes, and dreams that aren't yours. Desire keeps the machine running. But it also burns you alive. Schopenhauer didn't romanticize it. He didn't wrap it in stories of destiny or fulfillment. To him, desire was a curse. A hunger that never ends. The moment you get what you want, you want something else. And so, life becomes a pendulum. Swinging between pain and boredom. Wanting, achieving, and immediately wanting again. But what if the way out isn't forward? What if it's letting go? In a world that says, chase your dreams. This sounds like heresy. But Schopenhauer, and the mystics long before him, saw truth in renunciation. Not as weakness, but liberation. They saw artists lost in their craft. Monks lost in their breathing. Lovers lost in the moment when ego dissolves. And they understood. Freedom doesn't come from more. It comes from less. When the self dissolves into music. When time disappears in meditation. When beauty stuns you into silence. You're not achieving. You're escaping. Escaping the tyranny of needing. The prison of becoming. The lie that happiness is always just around the corner. And in that space, that sacred pause, something happens. You forget who you're supposed to be. The career. The image. The story you've been curating like a museum exhibit. And for a moment, you just are. Modern life doesn't want that. It wants you to keep striving. To believe that more money, more followers, more control will finally quiet the ache. But what if the ache is there? Because you're chasing? What if the real way out is to stop? Not out of apathy, but out of awakening. Because when you stop chasing, you begin seeing. And what you see is this. You were never incomplete. You were never behind. You were just trapped in a game that no one ever wins. So escape. Not by disappearing from life, but by entering it so fully, so honestly, so nakedly, that there's nothing left to want. Only, to be. This is not surrender. This is transcendence. You were never broken. You were never broken. You were told you were. Every time you cried too loudly. Every time you sat alone at lunch. Every time your mind wandered in class and they labeled you difficult. Too sensitive. Too intense. Too much. You were taught to perform. To package your pain into something more palatable. Smile more. Talk less. Achieve. Conform. Fit. And so you learn to wear the mask. To walk through life pretending. Pretending to be normal. Pretending to be okay. Pretending you didn't wake up every morning feeling like something was off. Like something inside you had been exiled and forgotten. But it wasn't you that was wrong. It was the world that couldn't hold you. You were never broken. You were just fragmented. Split between who you are and who you were told you had to be. Your sadness wasn't weakness. It was memory. Memory of everything you had to abandon to survive. Your anger wasn't dysfunction. It was your soul demanding to be heard. Even your numbness. That cold, empty silence inside. Was not apathy. It was protection. The last defense of a heart too overwhelmed to keep feeling. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And maybe your whole life has been fate disguised as noise. Reactions, relationships, routines. All of it spinning to keep you from sitting with what hurts. But now, maybe you're ready. Ready to stop running. To stop fixing. To stop hiding from the very parts of you that have been screaming for your attention. Because your shadow wasn't trying to destroy you. It was trying to return you to yourself. And when you turn to face it, when you hold your fear with the same hands you've used to push it away, you begin to remember. Remember the child before the mask. The artist before the rules. The human before the performance. That is your truth. Messy. Wild. Inconvenient. And beautifully, irreparably whole. You were never broken. You were just told to run from your suffering. But suffering was never your enemy. It was the doorway. And maybe now, you can walk through it.